How many of you have been, well, first of all, my name is Francis Christensen, and I'm a member of St. Paul's, Canada. I've been a church warden there several times, parish council chair, ran the gift campaign, a number of other things like that. And I've also been the diocesan stewardship chair a couple of years back. So let's get started. Governance and leadership. A warden is a warden, period. Now, what does that mean? Well, you've heard of rector's wardens, you've heard of people's wardens. There is really no fundamental difference between the two types of wardens. Yes, they come to their positions by different means, but at the end of the day, they are equal in every respect. Each of the wardens is responsible for what happens on the rector's side of the house. Each of the wardens is responsible for what happens on the people's side of the house. There are no legal or functional differences between the two wardens, and wardens themselves are required to operate on the basis of consensus, and that is, no individual warden can make significant decisions without the consensus of the other. All right? They have to operate as a team. Any questions on that?
Question?
Yep.
In our parish, we have wardens and we have associate wardens.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, good question. Yes?
Where does the priest fit in then?
I'll get to that too. All right. The corporation. This is where the priest fits in. The corporation consists of the two wardens, rector's warden, people's warden, and the incumbent. That is your legal definition of the responsibility for the parish. They act as the trustees of the congregation, and they oversee the ministry, the property, and the business issues of the parish. This is the compass rose, the Anglican Communion worldwide symbol. And if you think of it as a compass, you'll note that as trustees, your job is to have in mind, as you carry out your duties, have in mind the objectives and the mission and the vision of the parish and of the diocese, in fact, in mind with whatever decisions that you make. All right? If you keep that focus, the true north, if you will, in terms of what the vision and mission of the parish is, you're not going to go too far astray. You, in effect, are the stewards of the parish, and basically the parish entrusts their care to you. This is not a 99-year life sentence. So the terms of office for a warden are technically 1 year. All right? It's wise for incumbents and parishes to organize the selection process to provide for the continuity or the succession of wardens. And this is where the issue of deputy wardens comes in. Come on in, welcome. Grab a seat. So the object here then is to perhaps bring along an associate. We've had a question about associate wardens. Bring them in so that you can train them, and then they'll be in a position, if they get reelected or reappointed, to be able to carry on with some degree of continuity, and they in turn can now train new people coming in behind. So it's a good process to work with associate wardens or deputy wardens. And if you're looking for information or how to go about doing that, just ask one of us after the end of the session. Treasurers are much the same. It's not a life sentence. As a volunteer, you want to make sure that you treat wardens and treasurers in exactly the same manner that you would treat any volunteer. You don't want to burn them out by overloading them. You want to basically have a fair load. You want to make sure that you have the ability to cycle new ideas through and have some sort of succession planning. If you don't, you're going to end up with a big gap, a big hole, which is much harder to fill. As I said, it's good practice to have a deputy warden. Deputy wardens can also be elected at your annual vestries. This provides for an excellent opportunity, as I said, for individuals to gain experience without necessarily having the full accountability. So they can be associate members of the corporation, listening in, observing, learning, gathering the experience that they'll need when they become full wardens. It's not automatic, however. Remember I said that the wardens had a one-year term. Technically, they must be either elected or re-elected annually at the vestry. So if someone comes on as a deputy warden, it's not automatic that they will go to be a final warden. It's an election process, and you just deal with it on that basis, okay? Most times, though, it is a continuing cycle. So, I'm from a large parish. Let's take an example here in terms of the large parish. In this case, the corporation holds the legal liability, and they're accountable for all the programs, facilities, and all the day-to-day operations that go on. And you'll see that in this particular parish, there are certain ministries which report directly to the corporation, such as treasurer, your strategic planning, your auditors, and so on. All right, so this is one model. It doesn't have to be your model. It's just one example of a model for a large parish.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, on the other side, you say deputy rector's warden and deputy people's warden. Since there is no difference between the two wardens, is there any need to differentiate between the deputies? Can you not just have two deputy wardens, period?
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
sure.
there isn't any prescribed division of duties.
Don't forget, the wardens come from two different points of view.
Yeah.
One is appointed by the rector,
Yeah.
and one is elected by the parish at
Yeah,
vestry.
but the bylaws don't mention deputies appointed by the rector. They only mention deputies appointed by the vestry.
Fair enough. But you know what? If the rector decides to appoint a deputy rector's warden,
Yeah, you could do that.
sure. Yeah. You may be technically correct. It doesn't matter how they get in there.
Yeah.
If you want to elect both deputies through the people's side of the house, that's fine. All right? One of the advantages, of course, of having your associates is the fact that you can also split the workload. In a large parish, that makes a lot of sense. Having 4 wardens to split the workload as opposed to, settling on 2.
Yeah, but we can do that anyway without splitting it according to rector versus people.
Of course.
And particularly since you said there is no such distinction once they're appointed.
No.
The actual work.
And they don't actually, the associates, remember, don't have legal accountability either.
Yeah.
All right? So what about this legal liability? All right? If it's of concern to you as a warden or as a treasurer, rest assured that the Diocese of Ottawa does have liability insurance for all volunteers serving on its behalf. This covers church wardens and treasurers who act in good faith. Let me re-stress that. Who act in good faith. If you steal, if you do all that sort of stuff, that's not in good faith, and you're liable. But if you're acting in good faith, then the insurance policy that the diocese carries will hold true. Okay. So here's a situation where we talked about the corporation, we've talked about a few ministries that report to the corporation in this large parish. What about parish council? Well, parish council, in this particular case, deals with and implements the decisions of vestry. It acts as vestry out of session, and it discerns and recommends to corporation. When you've got 50 or 60 ministries that are going on or active in the church at one time, clearly corporation is not capable of dealing with all of those in a direct hands-on manner. You've got to disseminate the decision-making, you've got to disseminate the operations to where people can do their thing. You provide the guidelines, you're accountable for what's going on, but you can distribute that work to the people that are best capable of doing it, the other volunteers of the church. And clearly that's where parish council comes into play. All right? So, together with your fellow trustees and with the advice and recommendations of parish council, church wardens then are responsible for discerning, implementing, monitoring, and adjusting the priorities and plans of the parish regarding mission and ministry. The wardens are accountable for the annual budget. The treasurers are responsible for the preparation of the annual budget based on the guidelines provided by parish council and corporation. Okay. Following the adoption of the parish by the parish's vestry of your annual budget, the wardens are accountable for ensuring that the budget is carried out according to the plans that have been laid out, and are responsible for maintaining and in keeping with the priorities that have been established. Okay, let's talk about a smaller parish. I don't know, how many are in small parishes as opposed to large ones? Okay, so we got a good mix of the two here. On a smaller basis, you still have vestry, that's a given. Vestry still has the requirement to establish the overall parish direction and to approve the financial budget. In this case, corporation now becomes part of parish council. It just doesn't make sense to have separate entities because it's a smaller parish. So the legal aspect of it is dealt with within parish council, but you're still responsible for providing overall parish leadership, for implementing vestry's decisions with respect to ministry programs and with respect to facility stewardship, and you act as vestry out of session. A lot of churches, they don't call them parish councils, they call them advisory councils. So depending on where you sit, that's a possibility as well. You'll notice that in all the diagrams I've shown so far, you've got the arrows in there that basically show communication both ways. It's not a matter of a dictator, it's a matter of making sure that communication continues to flow between all the people that are responsible for conducting the programs and for establishing the guidelines under which those programs are conducted. So the Religious Institutions Act of Ontario and our own diocesan canons, bylaws, and regulations make it clear that the overall responsibility for the management of a congregation's finances lies with the incumbent and the church wardens, in other words, the corporation. By the way, you can take notes now, but this particular presentation, all three components of it, will be up on the diocesan website, the resource base of the diocesan website, in due course. All right, so it will be available there. Church wardens don't need to be financial experts. In many cases, wardens won't have the financial background to do what's required. However, they do need to be confident that a treasurer who they appoint has the capability and to establish a set of rules, guidelines, oversight to ensure that the financial aspects of the budget preparation, budget approvals, and the conduct of the parish during the course of the year are undertaken with respect to vestry's decisions. In other words, they have to establish that oversight, even if they can't do it themselves, to ensure that it is being done properly. So, call in an auditor, make sure that you're monitoring the programs to ensure they're being done. Monitor monthly finances to ensure that your outflow is not greater than your inflow, those kinds of things, okay? So it's mandatory that you establish and maintain a solid audit trail and to exercise, as I said, the continuing due diligence in overseeing the handling of all financial transactions and affairs on behalf of the parish. So in summary, the financial responsibilities can be delegated, and in most cases should be delegated. However, accountability cannot be delegated. It belongs to the trustees, the wardens, and the incumbent. The treasurer is normally given the important responsibility of preparing the annual budget based on the guidelines that are provided by parish council and corporation. The wardens, however, must approve the budget. They have to stand behind it. Therefore, in the end, the budget presented at the annual vestry meeting becomes, in a real sense, the warden's budget. Similarly, the audited or reviewed annual financial statements presented at the vestry meeting become the warden's financial statements. And it's traditional that outgoing wardens, the wardens that are completing their term, will present the financial results for the past year and any explanations that are part of that. And the incoming wardens will take over and present the budget for the future years.
How does that work if your incoming people's warden isn't elected or even nominated until the vestry meeting?
Okay, fair enough. If you've got 4 wardens, I'm talking the basis of your deputy wardens, normally what you would have is a flow of your 2 outgoing wardens, your people and your rector's warden to be outgoing. They would look after the financial statements over the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Your deputy rector's warden would be appointed, right, by the rector, so that doesn't become a vestry decision,
If that's done.
if that's done.
But we don't do that.
Okay, fair enough. Then you'll make some other arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
does the diocese recommend any particular format for a financial statement for small and large churches?
A format.
Well, I know, I think for a financial
Actually, I think
statement-
I'm going to leave that one for Vicky, maybe. Do you have any format?
I'm not aware of any specific format that the diocese recommends.
So the churches choose.
Is Michael still here?
No.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, are you? Good.
I would suggest that fund accounting, basic fund accounting is the way to go. And that's basically it. You know, and there are various formats for that. I don't know if you're an accountant yourself or you're fund accounting as opposed to business accounting, corporate accounting. Yeah.
Good.
And as far as software is concerned, we're going to try and implement a standardized software maybe within a year. We're going to have a workshop on that, so hopefully we can standardize everything across the board.
Does this mean accepting an established piece of software or developing a special piece of software?
There is a particular one that we're very interested in that we think will suit the whole diocese, but we won't get into that.
Okay. You got a timing on that, Michael?
Within a year.
Within a year. Okay.
Both Ashley Way and myself are working on that and we'll be
Another-
introducing it.
Another point for clarification?
Yeah, just would the Canada Revenue Agency return be included with this as a responsibility of the treasurer and the
I'll let Vicky get into that with the
That's a
treasurers.
separate thing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
So, last point, in the interest of that good faith comment I made earlier on, if at any time, for any reason, the wardens become unsure that they have proper oversight, they are obligated to take action to ensure that the financial affairs are being handled properly. Do whatever is necessary to ensure that that audit trail exists and that affairs are being, if you become unsure or uncertain, call in help. And there's opportunities for help either through the diocese, through the incumbents and so on, if you're not competent from a financial perspective. Okay, that ends my segment.
Question?
Yep, go ahead.
You referred to the Ontario situation, specifically referred to an act. Is there a similar act in Quebec?
The answer to that is, I don't know, but I would expect there would be.
I'm sure there is too, but
Yeah.
as usual, the diocese has forgotten about the deanery of West Quebec.
I'll make a point of that and get that, or, set up for the next time.
Can I ask a question too, please?
Yes.
About, I'm curious about what the standards are for staff management. And parishes I've been a warden in, staff meetings have been chaired by the incumbent, and basically staff meetings are held during office hours, But I'm wondering if that is enough protection for the incumbent? Should the whole corporation, or at least one warden, be present for staff meetings?
It's probably an individual preference. If you're asking me what I would do, I would say yes. If you're having a staff meeting, particularly if the staff is an issue. In other words, if there's a performance issue or, you know, absence issue or something like that, clearly having additional witnesses,
the
if you
table.
want to call it that, yeah, absolutely.
Is it
In the
common-
larger parish, the model I put up there, the warden, one of the wardens is actually appointed the staff liaison, so to speak, and deals with all the staff issues. And any staff issues that come up from the staff are then taken to corporation or parish council, depending on what the situation is in terms of addressing what the issue is. Clearly, the incumbents work with staff most directly, most of the time, and there's going to be that one-to-one relationship there. And let's face it, the wardens aren't always in the church, right? But if there are issues, clearly, I think the corporation, at least two, if not all three, depending on the situation.
Just as a piece of historical interest, I got this from Robin McKay. The legal position of the Anglican Church in Canada was established by act of the legislature of Upper and Lower Canada for the Diocese of Montreal in 1858. That's the basis that we're all operating. We have history.
All right, there you go. In Montreal, did you hear that? Okay, good.